Good day everyone. We are group number 8 and we're going to summarize the IBM China Development Lab case. We have done a little bit of analysis on the case and we'll try to present our findings as briefly as we could. Before we start, let's look at the timeline of IBM's presence in China. They started business in China in the year 1979 with the import of servers. They are mainly in the business of B2B customers. In the year 1989, when Deng Xiaoping opened China to all the other manufacturers, IBM built their first lab in a place called Haidian. In the year 1999, they built a bigger facility called China Development Lab in the area of Shanghai, which started with an employee of only 17. And it grew up to an employee strength of 170 in the year 2005. And it was included in the Asia Pacific cluster for development in the business of IBM. Now let's look at some of the reasons why IBM chose China as one of the major markets. In the late 80s, when China was open to all the international manufacturers for their development, IBM was one of the early movers. China's market was growing at a very high rate. There is a lot of development going in the sector of infrastructure, in the sector of education, and IBM was one of the first few companies to tap onto those advantages. These are some of the reasons we think that IBM thought that China might be one of the major markets that they should tap into and have into the revenue stream. We did a case analysis of China with the perspective of IBM to find out what all challenges that IBM might face while doing business in China. In the cultural aspect, we find that the expectation of Chinese customers is a lot different from the expectation of Western customers. Their need from an e-commerce side is totally different from the need of an Western customer. Their need from the banking facilities is totally different from the Western customers. IBM has to see the difference in the culture as a threat, and they should have different solutions for the Chinese customers and different solutions for the Western customers. In the administrative sector, we have found in a lot of cases that we have in our readings, like in the Foxconn case, the IP laws in China is very weak. A lot of companies have faced a lot of issues in terms of IP in China, and IBM should also be aware of these issues that might cause harm in their operations in the future. In the geographic aspect, there's a distinct division of labor in the US facility and the Chinese facility, and there is a possibility that this might cause resentment in the Chinese employees being treated not as equal as the US counterparts. So IBM should take this as an opportunity. They should rotate the employees between the Chinese facilities and the US facilities so that the resentment is being taken care of. In the economic aspect, we found that in China, a lot of talented labor can be hired at a very lower cost compared to the other Western countries. And IBM should take this as an opportunity and hire those very talented labor workforce at a low cost and groom them for their new leadership. You also did an industrial analysis for IBM with respect to China with the help of the Porter's 5 forces. As we have found in analysis that most of the forces are either medium or medium to low. I would like to just point out one of those, the threat of substitutes. We have found that a lot of substitutes of IBM solution that they are currently offering to the customers are coming out. These substitutes are mainly very small in nature, but they have the potential of making the solutions that are being offered by IBM as obsolete, and IBM should be very careful on this threat that they're being offered by these tools. Now Michael will continue the presentation.
So for the diamond analysis from the components structures, IBM is hierarchical structures, and at that time there is no competition, low competition in Chinese market. From the factor demand, they have lots of talented people at very low cost, and the local customers need a lot of sophisticated software and hardware. IBM also can understand the local market thoroughly and before their competitors, they can customize the product for the local customers. It's very close to the local universities. Like in Shanghai, they has lots of universities teach students as an engineer background, and it's close to the OEM industries in Taiwan or Guangdong province. The past analysis from the political views, the government encourages the joint venture companies, joint venture with the foreign companies. They want to use the market to exchange the high technologies from foreign companies. The government provides tax incentive for this kind of joint ventures. It's a great opportunities, and IBM need to leverage the opportunity and ally with the government to get protection. Economic, huge market, growing, very fast growing economic, skilled labor, engineer talent pool, and good infrastructures. It's a great chance for IBM to involve with to lead in just opening emerging market and need to locate it with the other competitors before they move in. Social cultures educate the engineer background employee. They study English as their second language, easy to communicate with the foreign managers. It's a great chance for IBM to interact with the university to teach the students their future employee. And it's also good opportunities for them to brand their company reputations. Technologies. IBM focus on the high-end technologies, and at that time in Chinese market there is no domestic competitors, there is no foreign competitors. But the opportunities as well as the threat, because IBM need to get IP protections from both US and the Chinese government. Environment, no natural disasters, and is a very safe environment. It's easy for IBM to step locations in safe areas. Then when we'll continue.
So let's quickly recap the idea we mentioned before. Firstly, the IBM founded CDL in China in 1995 and CRL in 1999. So, which can provide the software, the products, and technology solution, and most importantly, it can be a bridge between the Chinese market and the global market. Fourth, it also has the local talent as the principal driver. IBM also educates the talent people who can provide a better solution for local companies. And finally, in 2011, CDL was part of Asia Pacific cluster of IBM. So how can IBM adapt to the Chinese market, and what are their comparative advantages? We briefly categorize it into three directions. Firstly, cost reduction, second, talent labors, and finally, the local opportunities. In terms of the cost reduction, IBM signed a contract with a local partner which locates in the Wuxi iPark to provide WebSphere's commerce hosting. It can reduce the front and upfront cost, and also attract more small and medium enterprises to use their service. Secondly, because Shanghai is one of the higher education cities and has large population, so it's located in the Shanghai to recruit high talent labors by a low cost. Thirdly, it's used CDL IBM used the CDL to develop the feed handlers to reduce the operational cost, because it's a routine job. If they develop this kind of solution in the US sites, it will cost more labor fees in these actions. So next, about talent labors, as I mentioned before, the CDL located in the Shanghai because there are so many high reputation and high talent universities there, and also the labor fee there in China at that time is also cheap. Secondly, it's invest $1 billion US dollars to educate their people and train them to be a global leader in the future. Finally, about the local opportunities. Not like the US market, Chinese market has many small and medium enterprise, so the business model is totally different. IBM developed the CAAS to do the cloud to attract more local small companies to use their service and to let them to be the first adapters to their service. Secondly, they also want to target to those foreign bank which wants to enter the Chinese markets because they have to transfer technology from the US side to the Chinese side. So IBM provide them this kind of service and to get quickly access to the Chinese market from previous to other competitors. So how IBM educated their talent people and how can they do it? Basically, they have many programs such as the mentoring and shadowing program, workshops, professional educations, which can educate the high-end engineering, but it's not enough for educate excellent global leaders. So IBM add value to those programs. They use the rotation program to let those managers have a global mindset, and then those senior managers can also observe the global trend and find the local demand for the companies, which can provide a solution for the company to align and provide the technology and the knowledge to those senior managers to align with the company's strategy and have a global framework. So finally, Michael will summarize our points for you.
So what we learned from this case, IBM is the earlier mover and has advantage in a market. Going to the market first, learn how to run business in this market and provide big advantages compared with other competitors. Utilizing competitive locations of each location. Low cost, low cost, low cost. Low cost in Chinese market. IBM can use the low cost of talent employee to finish their project. Like in China, they can focus on the labor intense jobs, but in US, they can focus on the knowledge intense job. Experience sharing with other companies. When other Western companies go into the Chinese market, they need to learn how to run business in this market. At that time, it's a great opportunity for consulting department in IBM. They can teach the way how to run business. They can teach the rules. They can teach the other competitors how to cooperate with the local government. Also, its employee grows to become a future leader. For IBM, they have great rotation programs and invest a lot of money. For these employees, they will become the future leader in the next 5 to 10 years and help this company to keep success in the next 10 to 20 years. Thank you. This is our presentation.